A political and legal storm has erupted in the center of Washington, D.C. Judge Charles Hargrove assumed a $500 fine would be enough to silence Karoline Leavitt, but he miscalculated. Leavitt didn't just reject the penalty, she responded with a powerful $800 million lawsuit. At 27, Karoline Leavitt, known for her sharp tone and bold views, isn't just the youngest person to serve as White House press secretary. She's emerging as a strong figure in conservative politics. This time, her focus isn't on mainstream media or Hollywood critics. She's challenging a federal judge in court. The issue began during a high-stakes courtroom session. Leavitt had been assigned by President Trump to oversee a legal dispute involving Christians who had been barred from praying in public. While her official role was simply to observe, the situation shifted dramatically. Judge Hargrove issued her a $500 fine, not for speaking out, but for wearing a cross. In front of numerous witnesses, he criticized her harshly, labeling her a fanatic and stating, "The cross doesn't belong here." Karoline remained calm and firm. Right after exiting the courtroom, she contacted her legal counsel. Her message was clear: file a lawsuit against Hargrove and the D.C. court for defamation and First Amendment violations. Her response came in the form of an $800 million legal challenge. While news outlets debated the legality of the fine, Karoline moved quickly. The media lit up, and social media followed. Supporters called her a defender of religious rights, while critics accused her of using faith as a political tool. Insider reports suggest Judge Hargrove is now under significant pressure, not only from the public but also within the judicial system. With political and legal forces intensifying, his position is starting to weaken. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt remains steady, and the legal battle she has triggered is far from over. Inside the White House press office, Karoline sat focused. The cross around her neck shimmered, a reminder of the courtroom clash she had just started. Judge Hargrove's comments, "fanatic, dangerous spokesperson," still echoed in her thoughts. But this wasn't just about winning a case. She wanted accountability. Her fingers moved swiftly over her laptop keyboard as she drafted an email to Rachel Harper, a prominent conservative attorney known as the Judge Hunter. Moments later, Rachel entered the room. Her voice was direct and firm. "This isn't just about you, Karoline," she said. "Hargrove is part of a broader effort, an attempt by liberal powers to weaken Trump by targeting those around him." Rachel outlined a legal plan: charge Hargrove with deliberate defamation and sue the D.C. court for fostering anti-religious bias. She urged the federal courts to handle the matter urgently. "The damage to your public image needs immediate attention," Rachel stated, her tone decisive. "They'll have no choice but to comply," Karoline said, nodding, her heart pounding. She wanted Judge Hargrove to feel the same pressure she had felt in that courtroom. Within just 24 hours, the federal court responded. Hargrove was ordered to submit all relevant documents within 48 hours, a strict and urgent deadline. Karoline didn't wait. She contacted Jake Torres, a digital strategist from Trump's 2024 campaign. "Jake, make the hashtag #JudgeOnTrial trend," she instructed over the phone. Jake worked fast. Coordinating with influencers on TikTok and YouTube, he quickly pushed the courtroom audio clip to X, formerly Twitter. Within hours, the hashtag had reached over 50,000 mentions. One viral clip showed Karoline standing firm at the defendant's podium, her voice strong and clear across thousands of phones and screens. "Hargrove thinks he's above the law," one TikTok user commented. But Karoline's about to prove otherwise. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit office in D.C., Judge Hargrove sat hunched at his desk, clearly unsettled. The $800 million lawsuit was now front-page news. He switched on his computer, hands shaking, scrolling through emails as he searched for a way to respond. "This is just a young woman's stunt," he said aloud, but his words lacked confidence. Desperate, he called Judge Ellen Carver, a longtime colleague known for her strict and calculating demeanor. "Ellen, why is she going after me?" he asked nervously. On the other end of the line, Carver whispered from another courtroom, "Stay calm, Charles. I'll influence the witnesses. Without evidence, she doesn't stand a chance. Hargrove nodded, but his forehead was damp with sweat. Just then, Karoline received an anonymous email. It came from Ethan Brooks, an IT staffer at the D.C. court. "I've seen the emails between Hargrove and Carver," he wrote. Attached was a PDF. Karoline opened it, her heart racing. It was a series of internal messages revealing a plan between Hargrove and Carver. Their goal? Discredit Karoline and send a message to Trump. One line stood out. "Target her cross, it'll throw conservatives off balance." Enraged, Karoline forwarded the file to Rachel, then to Jake. "Make it public. Now," she instructed. Within hours, Fox News aired the story. D.C. judge caught plotting against White House press secretary. The hashtag Mosher Judge on Trial surged past 100,000 mentions. Comments flooded in. Hargrove is finished. Karoline's a fighter. Back at home, watching the headlines unfold, Hargrove felt the ground give way beneath him. He opened his laptop, attempting to erase emails from the court server, but a message flashed. "System has saved copies." In the IT office, Ethan Brooks watched quietly, a small smile on his face. He had just tipped off Linda Martinez, an investigator with the D.C. Judicial Council. With 2 decades of experience, Linda acted quickly. After reviewing Ethan's message, she gathered her team. "If Hargrove's deleting files, he's violating federal law," she stated firmly. Meanwhile, Hargrove's co-workers began to distance themselves. Ms. Thompson, the court clerk, quietly made photocopies of her notes, preparing to deliver them to Karoline. James Wilson, a court officer, whispered to a colleague, "Hargrove went too far. Leavitt's doing the right thing." Karoline knew Hargrove was cornered, and she wasn't done yet. Just then, Rachel entered the room, placing a thick file on the table. "The court just approved a search of Hargrove's office. We're about to get more evidence," she announced. Karoline nodded, briefly touching the cross necklace around her neck. At the D.C. District Court's archive room, Linda Martinez stood under the glow of fluorescent lights. With 2 decades of investigative experience, she knew the leaked emails from Ethan Brooks, showing judges Hargrove and Carver plotting against Karoline Leavitt, were just the beginning. Her fingers brushed along dusty filing shelves until they reached a locked iron box labeled Internal Records. "Open it," she told her assistant, her tone quiet but commanding. Elsewhere in the courthouse, Linda's investigative team searched Hargrove's office, their footsteps and the rustling of documents echoing in the hallway. Karoline's $800 million lawsuit was shaking up D.C., and Linda was determined to uncover the truth. Back at the White House, Karoline sat at her desk, her laptop screen glowing with viral posts. She opened a TikTok video, a young man acting out Hargrove shouting at her in court, with the caption, "Karoline's burning down the system." She gave a small smile, though her eyes remained cold. Jake Torres, her media strategist, knocked and entered with a tablet. "Karoline, Thompson just reached out. She has something important," he said, energized. Thompson, the court clerk, had sent a short message. 12 years of notes. Hargrove targeted religion. Meet me tonight. Karoline nodded, feeling a rush of adrenaline. She knew this wasn't just about her. It was about justice for millions affected by abuse in the judicial system. That evening, at a small cafe outside Washington, Thompson, her hair pulled into a tight bun, passed a leather notebook across the table. "Hargrove flags crosses. He targets anything religious," she whispered, scanning the room. "But offensive shirts, he laughs those off." The notebook listed dozens of incidents. A man fined $400 for wearing a prayer pin, a Muslim woman warned for wearing a headscarf. Karoline flipped through the pages, her grip tightening. "This is gold," she said firmly. Thompson nodded nervously. "If he finds out I gave this to you, I'll lose my job." Karoline rested a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're doing the right thing. I'll make sure you're protected." At the same time, in the archive room, Linda opened the iron box. Inside was Hargrove's black file, a thick collection of records documenting 200 cases over 5 years involving Fines for religious symbols. Roughly 80% of the cases targeted Christians. One handwritten note from Hargrove stood out. Keep the courtroom clean of fanaticism. Linda frowned and handed the file to her analysis team. She then called James Wilson, a court officer who had seen Hargrove's actions firsthand. Standing outside the courthouse, Wilson answered quietly. Last year alone, I counted 25 cases, all for religious items. He finds those more than anything else. Linda quickly took notes. She could see how deep this bias ran. Back at the White House, Karoline received an email from Linda. Attached was a scanned copy of the black file. Karoline read it line by line, her anger growing. She called Jake. Post everything. The public needs to see this. Within 30 minutes, Judge on trial crossed 300,000 mentions. Images of the dossier spread rapidly. One user wrote, "He finds crosses but ignores vulgar shirts, he's gotta go." Karoline later appeared on Newsmax. Her voice was sharp and steady. Hargrove isn't a judge, he's an oppressor of faith, and I will expose him. Viewers responded instantly, the hashtag going global. Meanwhile, Hargrove sat in his dimly lit apartment, pale, watching the headlines. His phone buzzed nonstop. The Judicial Council had called an emergency meeting. He opened an email. Provide an explanation within 24 hours. Panicked, he tried to reach Judge Carver, but she didn't answer. As he scrolled social media, mocking posts flooded his feed. Hargrove, start packing. He slammed his hand on the table. She's just a girl, he muttered. But deep down, he knew the situation was out of control. He dialed a hidden contact, a fixer. I need to fix this, he whispered, eyes wide with fear. Back at the investigation office, Linda received another email from Ethan Brooks. Hargrove was working under orders from Senator Daniel Clean, Ethan wrote, attaching messages exchanged between the judge and Clean, a well-known liberal and anti-Trump figure. One line stood out, target livid, discredit her, and Trump will falter. Linda forwarded the email to Karoline with a note. This is the spark you need. Karoline stared at the screen, her lips tight. The final piece had dropped. She grabbed her phone and called Rachel Harper. We've got Hargrove and Clean. Push the lawsuit harder. Rachel, seated in her high-rise law office, smiled coldly. They don't know who they've just messed with. At the media war room, Jake Torres moved fast. He posted the leaked Klein email to X with the caption, Hargrove is a puppet of the liberal elite. The video from Karoline's last Newsmax appearance roared back to life. Millions watching, commenting, Karoline is tearing the system apart. Outside the D.C. courthouse, the tension broke wide open. Crowds swarmed the steps holding handmade signs. Justice for faith. Hargrove, trapped in his dark apartment, peeked out the curtains. He could hear the chants through the glass. His heart. Do you mean? Then his burner phone buzzed. A message from the fixer. Plane ready, Switzerland, tomorrow. Hargrove nodded slowly, but his eyes were hollow. He wasn't just losing power. He was losing everything. At the White House, Karoline stood before a full-length mirror in the press room, adjusting her navy blazer. The silver cross around her neck gleamed like a blade. Behind her, the TV screen showed the sea of protesters outside the courthouse. She took a breath. This wasn't just about winning an $800 million lawsuit anymore. She was going to finish Hargrove. Rachel entered, holding fresh documents. Linda just sent more, she said, her voice sharp with triumph. Encrypted messages between Hargrove and Clean. Ethan recovered them. Karoline scanned the printout. Hargrove's words cut through her. Leavitt is a threat. We must silence her. She handed the documents to Jake. Make this a blockbuster. Jake's team moved fast. TikTokers, YouTubers, media accounts exploded with a new video. Flashing red text burned across the screen. Hargrove conspired against Karoline. Who is he really? That afternoon, Karoline stepped into the press conference like a warrior entering the arena. Cameras flashed. The room fell silent. She spoke clearly, each word slicing through the noise. Charles Hargrove didn't just fine me for my faith. He's a puppet of the liberal elite, targeting me to hurt President Trump. She held up the Klein-Hargrove email. Cameras zoomed in. This is proof he conspired to defame me and to silence millions of people of faith. The press room exploded. Journalists shouted over each other. But Karoline didn't flinch. She cited the black file, Thompson's notebook, the encryption logs. The media couldn't keep up. One post read, "Karoline just dropped a nuclear bomb on Hargrove." In 2 hours, the press conference video hit 1 million views. Outside, the courthouse was on fire with passion. Hundreds now marched with banners. Justice for Karoline. A mother raised a photo of her son, once fined by Hargrove for wearing a prayer pin. "Leavitt speaks for us," she shouted. Fox News and Newsmax streamed it live. "Karoline is a torch of justice," they said. CNN and MSNBC pushed back, calling her a political agitator. That night, Karoline fired back on Newsmax. "They call me an agitator. I call myself an American demanding justice," Hargrove trampled. The crowd roared. Karoline, 1. Liberal media, 0. Meanwhile, Hargrove sat frozen in his apartment. The TV glowed with her face again. He shut it off. His phone lit up, judges, lawyers, friends, all backing away. He opened his door. A letter waited. From his wife. "Charles, I can't go on. I'm gone." His son, a young lawyer, posted on X. "I'm ashamed of my father." Hargrove collapsed into a chair. His mind spun. Social media was a firestorm. Memes mocked him. A viral image. Hargrove in a clown hat captioned, "The hypocrite judge." He called the fixer. His voice cracked. "Isn't the plane ready? I can't take this anymore." The reply came cold and final. "Tomorrow morning, Switzerland, stay quiet." The next morning, the tension in Washington, D.C. was palpable. Inside his dimly lit apartment, Charles Hargrove sat paralyzed, the sirens outside growing louder. He peeked through the blinds, heart racing. Linda Martinez's investigative unit had arrived. Armed with a federal search warrant, they moved. Swiftly, their purpose clear. As panic clawed at him, his phone buzzed. It was Carver. The message was brutal. "Charles, they have everything. I can't help anymore." Hargrove's scream echoed through the apartment as he hurled the phone across the room. His mind spun in chaos. He opened a suitcase and frantically stuffed it with documents. The fixer called again. "The plane is ready. Don't get caught." Hargrove gave a shaky nod. His old confidence had crumbled into ash. He stared at his apartment one last time. Power, influence, gone. All that remained was fear. At the courthouse, Linda's team uncovered the smoking gun, a laptop left behind, its undeleted data confirming encrypted conversations with Senator Klein. Linda didn't hesitate. She called Karoline. "We have more messages. He's running." Inside the White House, Karoline Leavitt stood by a window, watching the city shimmer under the morning sun. "Let him run," she said coldly. "Justice will catch up." Her fingers touched the silver cross resting against her chest, drawing quiet strength from it. Behind her, the press room buzzed. On TV screens and social feeds, her face was everywhere. No longer just a political figure, but a symbol. Across town, the federal courtroom was a cathedral of tension. Sunlight pierced through tall windows, casting dramatic shadows across the polished floor. Karoline stood at the plaintiff's table, her navy blazer pristine, her presence radiating conviction. Behind her, Rachel Harper adjusted documents with methodical calm. The evidence was overwhelming. Hargrove's black file, Thompson's notebook, Klein's emails, and now the encrypted messages. The courtroom was packed. Reporters scribbled furiously. Influencers live-streamed the proceedings, and the public sat spellbound. Protesters outside roared, their chants muffled by thick courthouse walls. Inside, a single voice brought the room to order. Judge Amelia Ruiz's gavel struck like thunder. "Proceed with the plaintiff." Rachel Harper rose, poised and lethal. She projected Hargrove's black file onto the screen. 250 religious symbol fines over 6 years, she began. 80% against Christians. Gasps filled the air. She pointed to a handwritten note. "Religion is a threat." The room fell silent. Next, Rachel played a recording. Hargrove's own voice dripping with disdain. Leavitt is a fanatic, dangerous. Then came Thompson's notes, Klein's directive to smear Karoline, and Ethan's decrypted messages. We must break her. Boos erupted. Judge Ruiz banged her gavel again. Karoline stepped onto the stand, unshaken. Her voice, calm yet fierce, sliced through the courtroom. Hargrove didn't just target me for my cross, she said, touching the silver chain. He used the judge's bench as a weapon to silence my faith, to tear down my alliance with President Trump, but he underestimated the truth. Rachel handed her a printout of Klein's email. Karoline read it aloud. Leavitt is Trump's weak point. Destroy her. A ripple of whispers passed through the gallery. A woman in the audience whispered, she can't be stopped. The defense lawyer, Victor Kline, no relation to the senator, attempted a weak deflection, claiming Hargrove's actions were procedural. But Rachel called Linda Martinez to the stand. She laid it bare. Hargrove's black file and his attempt to delete evidence. A federal crime, James Wilson, voice gravelly, recalled dozens of ignored violations. Thompson, still visibly shaken, recounted Hargrove mocking a boy's prayer ring while tolerating vulgar t-shirts. Ethan Brooks followed, stoic and precise, detailing how he retrieved Hargrove's deleted messages. Each testimony was another nail in the coffin. Then came the moment everyone waited for. Rachel called Charles Hargrove to the stand. He shuffled forward, sweat glistening under the lights. Once a titan in the judiciary, now just a man cornered by his own arrogance. Rachel's voice sliced through the silence. Did you target Miss Leavitt to undermine President Trump? Hargrove stammered, the courtroom holding its breath. I was just staying neutral, Hargrove muttered, barely audible. From the plaintiff's table, Karoline rose, permitted by Judge Ruiz. Neutral? She thundered, her voice echoing through the courtroom like a divine reckoning. You find my cross but excused vulgar slogans. You took orders from Senator Kline to take me down. Why? The silence was suffocating. Hargrove's face crumbled, his voice cracked. I was pressured. Kline said it was a strategy. Gasps swept across the room. The gavel remained silent. Rachel stepped forward, projecting Hargrove's scribbled note on the screen. Religion is a threat. She turned, her voice sharp. This is your neutrality? Cornered, Hargrove burst into tears. I didn't mean to. I was just following orders. The courtroom erupted. Cries of liar tore through the air. Karoline remained still, stepping forward. You chose to defame me and countless others for their faith. You betrayed justice. Hargrove collapsed into his chair, broken and sobbing as Judge Ruiz restored order. Then came Ellen Carver. Called to the stand, her face drained of color. Did you conspire with Hargrove to target Miss Leavitt? Rachel asked. She revealed the damning email. Hit her faith. It'll hurt. Carver stammered. It was just a suggestion. But Rachel cut her off with recovered messages showing clear coordination. Carver cracked. We thought we'd succeed. Boos roared through the chamber. Ruiz's gavel slammed, but the damage was irreversible. Their plot was exposed. The courtroom's intensity overflowed online. One viral post read, Karoline just buried Hargrove. A clip of her confrontation exploded across feeds with the caption, This is justice. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed Karoline, but she remained calm. This isn't just about me, she said. It's about everyone. Inside, Hargrove sat in silence, his lawyer whispering in panic. He knew the verdict was inevitable. At the White House, Karoline was met with thunderous applause. Jake rushed in, tablet in hand. You're a legend. X is calling you the legal lioness. She smiled, but her mind was already on what came. Next, Linda called. Hargrove's team is panicking. He might flee. Karoline nodded, eyes steady. Let him hide. He can't escape. A text from Trump flashed on her screen. You crushed it, Leavitt. Keep going. Outside, chants filled the streets. A pastor live-streamed praising her courage. A sign waved high, Karoline for justice. A lawyer tweeted, Leavitt rewrote the game. As she scrolled, a message from a mother pierced through the noise. "Hargrove, find my son for a cross. You're our light." Her heart warmed, but her resolve only deepened. That night, under a gray sky at a private airstrip near D.C., Charles Hargrove, once a feared judge, now a fugitive in a black coat, cap pulled low, boarded a jet bound for Switzerland. No extradition treaty. No way back. The fixer, a gaunt man named Marco, whispered, "No one knows you're here. Stay quiet." Hargrove nodded, hollow-eyed, Karoline's words haunting him. "You betrayed justice." He opened, his phone one last time, scrolling through the wreckage. A meme hit hard. His own face photoshopped as a clown. Caption, "Harrow flees, Karoline wins." He shut it off, the weight of ruin pressing on his chest. The power he once held had turned to dust. Back at the White House, Karoline watched the trial replay. The moment she stood tall, millions bearing witness. Jake burst in, exhilarated. "Sources confirm Hargrove's on a plane." She gave a cold smile. Running won't save him. Her hand brushed the silver cross on her blazer. The strength of truth, of those who believed in her, Thompson, Wilson, Ethan, and millions more, flowed through her. Her phone rang again. Linda Martinez, voice sharp. "We've got a federal warrant." Karoline's eyes didn't blink. The system wasn't just on trial. It was being reborn. Hargrove deleted evidence to obstruct justice. Karoline nodded, signaling to bring him back to D.C. Linda's investigative team had uncovered crucial data from Hargrove's apartment, including a laptop with encrypted messages between him and Clean. They also found a hastily discarded handwritten note that made Linda pause. It read, "Leavitt's too strong. Must leave." She snapped a photo and sent it to Karoline with the message he knew he lost. As news of Hargrove's flight spread, the public erupted. A TikTok video quickly went viral, showing a private jet taking off, intercut with Karoline in trial. The caption read, "Hargrove runs, but Karoline is the storm." The video garnered over 3 million views with comments like "Cowardly judge," "Leavitt's a legend." International media joined the hunt, with a Swiss reporter spotting Hargrove at a luxury villa in Geneva, hiding under an alias. Photos of him sneaking into the house were broadcast on CNN with the headline, "U.S. Judge Flees After Bombshell, Lawsuit." Memes mocked Hargrove's escape attempts, one showing him on a yacht with the caption, "Hargrove thinks Switzerland will save him." Meanwhile, Hargrove sat in his villa, watching his own face plastered on the TV. The anchor sarcastically declared, "From judge's bench to fugitive, Hargrove is a global joke." Hargrove slammed his fist on the table, but his frustration went unheard. In Washington, D.C., Ellen Carver faced consequences. The Judicial Council suspended her and launched an investigation into her communications with Hargrove. A young lawyer at the D.C. court resigned, tweeting, "I won't work under Hargrove and Carver's shadow." The D.C. court, once a symbol of power, now faced public scrutiny as other judges were investigated for ties to the Black File. Linda held a press conference, her voice firm. "Hargrove violated federal law. We'll bring him back," she said. The crowd outside the courthouse cheered, holding signs that read, "Karoline leads, Hargrove fails." Karoline also held a press conference at the White House, standing tall before the American flag. Her voice, calm yet powerful, declared, "Hargrove fled, but justice knows no borders. He thinks Switzerland is a haven, but we'll find him." Karoline held up the $500 fine receipt from her initial trial, now framed as a symbol of victory. "This was the start. Now it's victory," she said, as cameras flashed and social media exploded with posts calling her a warrior. One tweet, "Read Hargrove runs, but Leavitt's his nightmare." Karoline ended the conference by calling out, "Stand up for faith and justice as we did today." Back in Geneva, Hargrove opened his laptop to find a federal warrant waiting. He attempted to transfer money to an offshore account, but the Justice Department blocked the transaction. A message from his fixer arrived, warning, "They know you're here. Leave now." Panicked, Hargrove looked out the window and saw reporters gathering outside. He quickly drew the curtains, his heart racing, knowing there was nowhere left to hide. Swiss media branded him a despicable fugitive. For the first time, Hargrove experienced complete isolation. Meanwhile, Karoline watched the news from the White House, her lips curling into a subtle smile. Jake entered with a tablet glowing. "You did it." "Hargrove's a global laughingstock," he said. Karoline nodded, her hand resting on her cross. "This isn't the end. Justice continues." Protests grew louder, spreading from D.C. to major cities, with signs reading, "Karoline for Justice." A pastor tweeted, "Leavitt didn't just beat Hargrove, she won for all of us." Karoline gazed out at D.C.'s twinkling lights, knowing she had turned a trial into a movement. Hargrove, though far away, couldn't escape her shadow. The lawsuit had not only crushed Hargrove, but sparked a judicial reform movement, with Karoline becoming its figurehead. Posts about Karoline continued to spread across social media, making her a symbol of justice and faith. Rachel Harper walked in, a rare smile on her stern face. "The federal court just issued its ruling," she said, handing Karoline a document. "You won, Karoline. Major damages, and the D.C. court must reform." Karoline read the document, her voice low but strong as she replied, "This is just the start." Rachel nodded. "You changed the game." The news spread fast. Fox News ran the headline, "Leavitt wins big. Hargrove flees." A pastor posted, "Karoline protected our faith." Jake Torres, the media strategist, sent Karoline a video of the viral trial, where crowds gathered in a D.C. park. Christians, once banned from public prayer, were now celebrating. They invited Karoline to speak, holding banners reading, "Freedom Park, thanks to Karoline." Standing before hundreds, Karoline declared, "Hargrove wanted to crush faith, but we turned this park into a symbol of freedom." The crowd cheered, raising crosses and signs. Other states took action. Texas passed a law protecting religious symbols in courtrooms, citing Karoline's lawsuit. Florida and Ohio followed, mandating First Amendment training. Texas's governor tweeted, "Thank you, Leavitt, for the fire of justice." Impressed by Karoline's victory, the Justice Department invited her to serve as a special advisor on religious freedom. Karoline accepted, feeling a greater responsibility than ever. A young Ohio lawyer wrote, "You inspired me to open a free clinic for victims of religious discrimination." Karoline read the message, eyes shining, knowing her movement was growing. Linda Martinez at the Judicial Council released a final report, confirming Hargrove's violation of federal law. Ellen Carver was permanently removed, and the D.C. court pledged to appoint a committee for transparent oversight. A young judge tweeted, "Leavitt forced us to look at ourselves. The judiciary will be better." Support for Karoline continued to pour in, with one TikTok video captioned, "From Cross to Freedom." Karoline received an email from a young girl, asking her to find a prayer bracelet that had belonged to her son. Karoline replied, "You're the hero for holding your faith." Jake walked in with a glowing tablet. "You started a revolution. Protests reached California." Karoline nodded, gazing at D.C.'s lights. Hargrove might have fled, but his legacy, a biased system, was crumbling. Under her strength, she opened X to see a post from a law student saying, "I'm studying law because of Leavitt. She proved justice is real." Karoline stood at a podium in Congress, the silver cross on her navy blazer. "We must protect faith from unjust hammers," she said, presenting a plan for national judicial reform. The audience applauded, and a congressman tweeted, "Leavitt didn't just defeat Hargrove. She's shaping a new judiciary." Karoline concluded her speech saying, "Justice doesn't stop when the guilty flee." Millions watched the live stream, commenting, "Karoline is the future." A law student emailed, "You inspired me to study law, to protect faith." Karoline read the message, heartwarming, knowing her legacy was taking root. In Switzerland, Hargrove, hiding in his villa, sent an apology email through a secret channel. "I was wrong," he wrote, offering to assist with remote judicial training. Karoline replied curtly, "Justice accepts reform but doesn't forget." She forwarded the email to Linda Martinez, who confirmed Hargrove would face the warrant wherever he was. A viral post declared, "Hargrove apologizes. Too late. Leavitt won." Under a twinkling sky, Karoline whispered, "Justice doesn't come on its own. We must fight for it." A pastor wrote, "Leavitt taught us that faith and truth always prevail." Karoline looked over the city, her heart brimming with resolve. Hargrove could run, but her legacy, a fairer judicial system, would endure. "Thank you for standing with me," she messaged. The post went viral, closing one chapter, but opening a future where Karoline led, unyielding. Karoline Leavitt's story was far from over.